the States, you know. Soon we will be. Awesome. Shema Yahu means to listen to Yahuwah. It's actually the name of a couple different Yasharelis throughout the generations. Actually, I thought if I had another son, that's what I would name him. Like, yeah, Shema Yahu. It's a beautiful name. But yeah, welcome to the Way, Temple, Texas. For those of you joining us online, we're grateful that you're here with us as we dive into the book of Bemidbar, or in the English, it's known as Numbers, which it comes from the numbering of the warriors of Yasharal in the beginning of the book. But technically, the book is about the trials and tribulations of the nation of Yasharal in the wilderness. That's why its true title means the wilderness. And the English does not do it justice, of course, just like the book of uh, Exodus actually means the book of names. Those who are named and called of the nation of Yasharel. Exodus does not do it justice, as Exodus is a very small portion, considering those being called and chosen to carry forth the name of Yasharel. So this Torah portion actually includes numbers 1 through 420, but I am only going to be going through Numbers chapter 1 as it is very in depth. So Bamidbar means in the desert or in the wilderness, and is also the name given to the fourth book of the Torah. It begins with the census of the tribes, the Shevatim, and instructions about the arrangement of the Israelite camp. The Levites are not included with the others in the census, since they are responsible for the Mishkan, the tabernacle, and have a special status within the nation. So this is the alignment for war, is what this book covers. As the nation was getting ready to enter into the promised land, or so it was Yahuwah's intent to prepare them to enter in. But it was because of their rebellion and their cowardice, their lack of faith, that they actually did not enter. So the census of Yasharal's warriors. I like the sound of that, as it's a beautiful thing when we realize that he still counts us as warriors. Yeah. So we just pray right now in Yahuwah's name that every word spoken would be of you, Yahuwah, that you would cause those who hear to understand, that you would cause every word that comes forth today to be true and according to what is written. Let every false way and every false thing fall to the ground and not be received in the ears of who listens, but let your word be heard in Yahuwah's name. Selah. Numbers 1:1, and Yahuwah spoken to Moshe in the wilderness of Sinai in the tabernacle of the assembly on the first day of the second month in the second year after they were coming out of the lands of Mitzrayim, saying, now I highlighted here, first day of the second month of the second year, because I want you to see that not much time really has passed so far since they came out of Egypt. Only a year has gone by. As they are in the first month of the second year. So there hasn't really been a whole lot of time go by. Remember, the first of the year for them began on Passover night when they were still in Egypt. As he said, this would be a head of years for you, the head of the first month of the first year, as their life began at Passover. And so this is only the second year. They are still largely Egyptian. In just a year's time, they were given a multitude of instructions. But just because you receive the instruction does not mean you become children of Yahuwah in that instant. It is a lifelong journey of continuing to surrender to the way of Yahuwah. And so they were still babies drinking of the milk of Yahuwah in this wilderness. And in the wilderness is where Yahuwah was like a mother to them and continued to feed them, to take care of them, and a father as protecting and guiding and instructing and correcting them. Let me check and make sure we got audio. Brady, can you pull up my YouTube and just make sure that people can hear me? I don't want to say a bunch of words and never be heard. If I make a little noise, sing hallelujah. Okay, we have sound. Okay. Excelente. On the first day, as the tabernacle was erected on the first day of the first month in the second year of their departure. So just the previous month, they had just set up the temple. Okay? So just to give you a timeline of how things went, they literally just got done building the tabernacle of Yahuwah. Okay? It is evident that the first transactions related in the preceding book must all have taken place in the space of 1 month, and during the time Yasharel was encamped at Mount Sinai. So the book of Numbers covers a very short time period. It's not a long span of time, but rather condensed and a testimony to the things that were happening within Yasharel during this time. This book records 2 numberings of the hosts, the first at Sinai and the second 38 years after on the threshold of Canaan. So at the end of the book of Numbers, there is a second numbering, but it's 38 years. So a very short book. Most of the book covers a very short time period, but then there's a leap and we go to the end. So there must be another book that gives an account in the greater detail of what happened. I wonder what that book might be called. We'll have to look that up someday. So we begin with the counting of warriors and chiefs. This is very important. Jubilees, maybe Jasher too, yeah? Yeah. So Numbers 1 verse 2, it says, "Take ye the sum of all the assembly of the children of Yasharel, after their families, by the house of their fathers, with the number of their names, every male by their polls, from 20 years old and upward, all that are able to go forth to war in Yasharal. You and Aaron shall number them by their armies. And with you there shall be a man of every tribe, every one head of the house of his fathers. And these are the names of the men that shall stand with you. Of the tribe of Reuben, Elitzer, the son of Shediur. Of Shimon, Shalum El, the son of Zuri Shaddai. Of Yehuda, Nashan. Of Yehuda, Nashan, the son of Aminadab. Of Issachar, Nathanael, the son of Zur. Of Zebulun, Eliab, the son of Helon. Of the children of Joseph, of Ephraim, Eli Shammah, the son of Yahud. Of Manasseh, Gamliel, the son of Padatsur. Of Benjamin, Avidan, the son of Gidonai. Of Dan, Ezer, the son of Shaddai. Of Asher, Pagiel, the son of Okran. Of Gad, Elikaph, the son of Deuel. Of Naphtali, Echirah, the son of Enan. These were the renowned of the assembly, princes of the tribes of their fathers, heads of thousands in Yasharah. And Moshe and Aaron took these men, which are expressed by their names, and they assembled all the assembly together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upward by their polls. Now, this is a really interesting part here because these are men of great importance, men of renown, princes of the tribes, heads of thousands. And the most interesting part that I discovered here is that it says expressed by their names. And that stood out to me. So I looked into this a bit further. And before we get into their names, it's important that we understand what El means. El is Aleph Lamed in the Hebrew alphabet. And it means the chief shepherd, as 1 Peter 5:4 states about the chief shepherd being the Messiah. And so we have the Aleph Lamed here pictured on the screen. You can see that it's the image of a bull and the image of a shepherd's staff, meaning the first shepherd or the greatest shepherd, the mighty shepherd or the chief shepherd. Now let's go through the names. So I took the time and I went through each and every name and I wrote out its meaning for you because I want you to see a story that's painted through the meanings of their names, as it said in the book of Numbers that they shall be expressed by their names. So I'm going to go down through it. Elitzer means my El is a rock, or rock is El. Now keep in mind that El means the mighty shepherd. So if we were to say that, it would be my mighty shepherd is a rock. Shalom El means friend of the mighty shepherd. Nachashan means enchanter, wise, and crafty. And being that he was of the tribe of Yehuda, this one really stood out to me because did enchanter mean one who does magic? Could this really mean what this, with this head of thousands, this prince's name means? So I dug a little deeper, and I found out that Nahashan, son of Aminadab and prince of the Yehudi, at the first numbering in the wilderness, was fifth in the descent from Yehuda in the genealogy of Yahusha, all right, the Messiah. So this was very intriguing to me. So I looked deeper into the name Nahashan. It's closer to meaning as a serpent hypnotizes its prey and slays it without a struggle. As Yahusha said in Matthew 10:16, the Hebrew word for one who enchants is ashaf. So just to be clear, ashaf means one that does witchcraft. Nahashan is one as wise as a serpent. Do you recall in Matthew 10:16, the Messiah saying, I send you out among wolves, right? I send you out as sheep among wolves. Be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Well, that word wise as serpents would point us back to Nachshan, who was as wise as a serpent. He was able to destroy his enemies without even fighting them. And if we remember the stories of Yehuda, the patriarch, he was able to scare men's hearts through his yell to the point where they would faint and die. He did not even have to fight against them. So we can take from this that his descendant, Nahashan, had the same sort of wit about him that he would cause the hearts of men to fail. He would enchant their heart through his might and his power that he wouldn't even have to fight against them. And that really stood out to me because of the words of the Messiah in Matthew 10:16. You see, we are to be men of might and strength and fierceness. Though we are to be harmless as doves, we don't go around exerting our power over people. We don't go over oppressing people just because of what's bestowed in us through the Ruach HaKodesh. No, we are bold. We are zealous. And when we step into the pen with cowardly men, they will flee. That is the truth of the Nachashan, as we are wise as serpents. And that is why, dear friends, we don't get invited back to certain Bible studies. But that's none of my business. Ali Av. Ali Av. So you're going to see L, and then you're going to see IY. The IY in this means is. So you're going to see L, which is mighty shepherd, E, which is, and then you're going to see a word after that. So in this case, you have Eliav, Eliav, which means my El is father, or in other words, my mighty shepherd is my father. And I just thought that was so beautiful. What an amazing name that is to have. That my mighty shepherd is my Abba, my father, as Av means father. It would be Ab, right? As we know it in the English, Abba is a common Hebrew translation. That's what Av means, is father. So my mighty shepherd is my father. Yahusha is Yahuwah. Yahusha is my father. Isn't that cool? The Hebrew names give away the truth, all right? So El-E Shama means the mighty shepherd hears. And I thought that was so beautiful too. I love these names. That's why in Numbers it says that by their names they shall be expressed. This is why they were chosen to be the princes of the nation of Yasharal, because the mighty shepherd hears them. Gamli El, or the rewarded of the mighty shepherd. Avidan, my father is judge. Who is the judge? It is Yahusha, right? My father is judge. Ahi Ezar, my brother is help. And I thought that was cool because the Messiah is our brother and he is our ever-present help. Hallelujah. Pag-E El, the event of the mighty shepherd, the pointing forward to the coming of the mighty shepherd again for all of Yasharal, or a great event of Yahuwah, such as the delivery out of Egypt, or the delivery out of the wilderness into the promised land. These are all well-renowned events. The great flood is another event of the mighty shepherd. Eli Akaf, whom the mighty shepherd has added. He adds to the flock, doesn't he? He leaves the 99 to go get the one lost sheep. And so in this case, Eliakaf means the one whom the mighty shepherd adds. It's a beautiful name. And then there's this one that actually cracked me up a little bit because there's always one in the bunch, isn't there? Ira, my brother is evil. Achi Ra, my brother is evil. And I believe this guy points out the evil brothers throughout history as we go down through. And if you remember, there was one among the 12 apostles who was evil, right? And so these names are prophetic of the things to come in their generations. That's why the book of Numbers, the Bidmar, the book of wilderness, is so important and vital to understand as a believer today in 2025, because your names are how you are expressed in the kingdom of Yahuwah on earth. That's why the Messiah changed certain apostles' names when he received them as sheep. Shimon is known as Kepha. That was given to him by the Messiah. And there are others. Here are some things the Messiah said, as I like to point us all back to the red letters. Matthew 23:11, but he that is greatest among you shall be your servant. and whoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that shall humble himself shall be exalted. These men, these princes of Yasharel, were men that were servant to all the nation. They were servant to thousands. And yet Yahuwah chose them by name and elevated them up to a office of great authority, just like the Messiah wants to do in your life. Matthew 5:19, whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Why did I put that? I put that because those men that were expressed by name were all men that upheld even the least commandment. They were chosen because of their zealousness for the law of Yahuwah and the name of Yahuwah, that they were not willing to bow to any other man. They were full of boldness, as their name states. These were men that would stand in the face of thousands and say, no. They were bold men in this time period, just like we are called to be bold. This right here, Matthew 5:19, is a calling to anyone who is willing to listen to become guardians of the words of the Messiah, which is the words of his Father. They're a calling to receive a new name written on a white stone, that you might be elevated from the least to the greatest simply because you are a guardian of the word and a doer of what you know to be truth. Matthew 10:1, and when he had called unto him his 12 Talmidim, he gave them power against unclean ruach, to cast them out and to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of disease. Now the names of the 12 apostles are these: the first, Shimon, who is called Kepha, and Andrai, his brother, Yaakov, the son of Zavidai, and Yochanan, his brother, Philip, and Bar Talmai, Teom, and Matithyahu, the publican, Yaakov, the son of Heleph, and Lavaoth, whose surname was Thadai, Shimon the Kenai, and Yehuda Iscariot, who also betrayed him. Did you see the last one? My brother is evil. Notice that the brother whose name was evil was the last to be listed in the book of Numbers. And even in Matthew, the brother who was evil was the last to be listed. Do you think that's a coincidence? I don't think so. I don't think it's any coincidence at all. Because Yahuwah never changes, dear friends. He chose the 12 princes of Yasharal back in the wilderness, and guess where he chose the 12 princes of Yasharal in the book of Matthew? He snatched them from dry places. Fishermen, tax collectors, sinners, right? Physicians, all these people that were kind of outcast. He came to call sinners, not the righteous. And that's what he did. He collected for himself men that he knew would be full of zeal and full of a love for his name whenever he empowered them through his spirit. So he took them from the least and elevated them to the greatest. All right? So what do these guys' names mean? If these guys had great authority in their names, let me go back here. If these guys represented great authority, what did these guys represent, huh? So I took the time and I went through and I attempted to discover their names. Now the cool thing is not all of these men were Hebrew. He came to call some of those that were dispersed among the heathens. All right? Not that they didn't have roots to Yasharal, but they were lost sheep among the other nations, as he came only for the lost sheep of Yasharal. So here I went through as best as I could and placed together the meanings of their name. Shimon was his name to begin with. Kepha was his given name. Shimon means he who hears. Okay? Peter definitely heard the calling upon his life that day, didn't he? As he dropped his fishing nets and went after him, right? He went after the calling. And so then he was called a pebble or a stone or kifa, all right? Remember, it was a pebble or a stone that killed the giant Goliath. See, a pebble in the hand of the Messiah has great power. And even though Kepha was small in his own eyes, like a pebble, Yahusha, the Messiah, saw a great man that eventually would be filled with the boldness and zealousness of the Ruach Kodesh, capable of slaying the giants or the religious leaders of his time. Pretty cool, huh? And dry means a vow that flows freely, brave, a strong man. No doubt he was a strong man, as what was about to take place in his life would absolutely require strength and bravery to stand against the entire world. Yehuda means praised and prince. Bar Tamai, son of Talmai, means furrows. His real name, Bar Tamis, right, was just meant the son of Talmai. His real name is actually Nathan El, or means given of El. And I find it interesting how the other Gospels hid his real name, but John revealed it. In John 1:45 and 21:2, the Apostle John revealed the true name of Bartholomew, and it was Nathan El. And I thought that was just so powerful because these names in their original line up with the names of the original princes of Yasharal. Yehuda Iscariot, it means praised, thankful, but a man of Kerioth, a city associated with Moab. So even though this was a prince or a praised of Yahuwah, he came from a tainted background, and he was full of filth, and he didn't let go of his filth, of his greed. Yaakov, that's why he is known as Iscariot, because he's stuck in his filth of Kerioth. Yehukanan, or Yahuhanan, or Yohanan, the middle name of my son Eliezer. It means Yahu is gracious. Philip, this man was not Hebrew. At least his name was not Hebrew. I don't know where he might have been born of. He could have been from the tribes of Yasharal, as Yahusha did say he came for the lost sheep. But his name gives no reflection of any tribe, but simply means fond of horses. But what do we know about horses according to the word of Yahuwah? Horses are a sign of great strength. They are something to be hoped in. They are something reliable. And so when I look at the name Philip, even though it's not of Hebrew origins, I see a man of strength. I see a man that can be trusted, right? I see a man that can carry a great burden. As Philip becomes the first evangelist of Yahuwah, I see that burden fulfilled in his name. And I am sure that his new name on that white stone is even greater than the fond of horses. Teom, or Thomas, as we know in the English, simply means twin. He was later called Didymus in the Greek, which simply means twin. He was a twin brother. Do you know how significant twins are in the scriptures? They are extremely significant. All the patriarchs had children in twins. Adam and Eve, Abraham, all the way down through, they eventually had some sort of teom, twins. Pretty cool. Matifyahu, it means the reward of Yahuwah. But he was known as a tax collector or a publican. Isn't that ironic? Even though he was stealing the taxes to give to Rome, stealing from his own people to give to Rome, he was known as the reward of Yahuwah. And Yahusha came to redeem his name. to take him from the one that was taking the taxes from his people, and instead now he paid back what came from Yahuwah. As Matityahu is the greatest gospel of Yahuwah, the greatest testimony of Yahusha, the Redeemer. And he redeemed his name and showed the reward of Yahuwah, which is salvation. What a great testimony to his name at the end of his life. Then we have Shimon, the Kena'im, meaning he who hears, and the Kena'im means planted. So he who hears and is planted. I thought that was so significant of this Simon, of this Shimon, because he was plucked out by the Messiah and then replanted with a new purpose. And he went forward to tell the good news to the nations. This was such a play on words and a great significance of his name. Yes, Rahab the planted. Yeah. Yeah, and Ruth was a Moabite taken out of uncleanliness and brought into cleanliness because she was willing to hold to her people, whereas Yehuda Iscariot refused to let go of his people's way. He was a crook. Levaoth, whose surname was Thadai or Thaddeus, right, means the heart perfect. It means pure of El, who gave birth to us. What a name, huh? His surname was Thadai. That means his name above his name. The heart perfect, pure of El, who gave birth to us. He went forth and gave birth to many people in the name of the great shepherd, who is Yahusha HaMashiach. Such a beautiful and powerful name is that. So the 12 apostles were the 12 tribes of Israel. Each tribe had its own unique gift, character, and calling. The tribes were Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Yehuda, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. Each one of the apostles that the Messiah chose represented by character and calling the 12 tribes of Yasharal. And he made the 12 apostles princes over the new founded way of Yahusha, calling all nations to repentance. These 12 were to go forth and be the leaders of thousands. Just like in the beginning of the book of Numbers, of Bidmar, the book of wilderness, there was 12 appointed to be princes and leaders of thousands. Isn't it awesome how our Messiah never changed? From the beginning of the book of Bidmar to here, representation in what's called the Gospels of the Good News, he has not changed. Each apostle brought his own unique gifts and talents to the table. For example, Reuben was the firstborn of Jacob and was known for his strength and boldness. Simeon was, and who was the strong one and bold one, do you think, out of the apostles? Peter. He was the first to stand up and give a sermon after Ruach HaKodesh fell upon them. And it says that he spoke with all zeal and boldness, right? That's good. Thank you, brother. Simeon was the second oldest and was known for his wisdom and understanding. Who do you think that might represent? A very wise, understanding fella. Huh? There's no wrong answer, as each of the 12 apostles represent a character trait from each of these tribes. Luke, okay. All right, where did I leave off? Levi was the third oldest, who was known for his knowledge of the law and his ability to teach it. Who would that have been of the 12 apostles? He had the greatest assembly in Jerusalem. Anybody know his name? The brother of the Messiah. Jacob, right? James, as in the English. Yaakov. He had all the knowledge of the Torah, and he set up camp right in Jerusalem after the Messiah left. And he had one of the greatest congregations of what's called the Nazarene sect. And it still exists to this day in Jerusalem. The Nazarene sect still exists. Hallelujah. Even though Christianity tried to snuff it out. All right. That's for another day. Yehuda was the fourth oldest and was known for his bravery and leadership. Who do you think that might represent? A brave one. He was probably the last living, never confirmed to die, actually. John, bingo. Yohanan, right? He was extremely brave. That dude was, oh man, he endured so much, and yet he continued to live on an island where no one can actually say if he died or not. What incredible bravery and leadership. Issachar was the fifth oldest and was known for his hard work and diligence. Any idea there? Matthew, he was very diligent, and his hard work is seen in what? His writings, meticulously going backwards in the genealogy of the Messiah to prove where he came from and who he was. Very meticulous. And that's a lot of work back then, as he had to go through many scrolls to find out all that information. Very good. Okay. Zebulun was the sixth oldest and was known for his generosity and hospitality. Huh? Huh? She wasn't an apostle, brother. Huh? It has to be one of the 12. It can be any of them. Matthew was known for his generosity as he invited everyone to his house and fed them. Simon, Peter, they did go to his mother-in-law's house. You see how the character traits are coming out here of generosity? Even Philip hosted many things in his home, right? No wrong answers. Let's see. Joseph was the seventh oldest and was known for his dream interpretation and his ability to govern. Peter, possibly he was a great governor, wasn't he? He did. He governed many assemblies. What about dream interpretation? Do we know anyone that had 7 daughters that were prophets? No? Philip! I guarantee you go to his house, you might have your dream interpreted. Philip was one that could walk by faith, right? Remember, he was given that message to go down this road, and he went down the road, and then he saw this guy, and he was said to go to speak to him, and then he was translated from one place to another, right? And all of a sudden, a pool of water appeared in the middle of the desert to baptize that guy. Like, tell me that it's not some dream interpretation. Some crazy things happening there. That's just my opinion, though. Any other opinions? Peter had dream interpretation, didn't he? Even though he was a bit slow at it. I wish he was a little faster about it. Maybe less people would think that they can eat pigs if he was a little quicker with his dream interpretation. He only took 2 pages, right? Or 2 paragraphs. But people don't read that far. They stop at eat. So they're out there eating lizards and pigs. All right? Film me. Cool. This is fun, isn't it? I think it's fun. What about Benjamin? Was the 8th oldest who was known for his faithfulness and loyalty. Was there any of the apostles that were faithful and loyal to the end? Peter was? No. No, but he is a true testament of faithfulness, right? Who else? John. I think John was one of the only ones that was at the foot of the stake that he was crucified on, wasn't he? That we know of. That we know of. It might have been the other fella that isn't named very often. What about Dan? Let's see. Dan was the ninth oldest and was known for his justice and righteousness. Huh? Well, Paul wasn't an apostle at this point. He actually wasn't one of the first chosen princes. He was later brought in because of other people being cast out. Remember Stephen? Stephen replaced Judas Iscariot. Then Stephen was killed, and then Shaul was brought in. Chosen by Yahusha. Any of them, right? Any of them, you could say justice and righteousness have to be in a prince's life. You cannot be a chosen one of Yahuwah and not have faithfulness and justice. You can't. You cannot have righteous. You cannot be his disciple if you're not walking in righteousness, right? So all 12 of them displayed justice and righteousness. All 12. That's why they were killed and tortured, beaten, and shunned, is because they walked in justice and righteousness. What about Naphtali? Was the 10th oldest and was known for his beauty and grace. Got me on that one. We don't really know what the apostles look like. We don't really know. They didn't care about their appearance. So we don't really know about that one. I'm sure they were all beautiful, though, because of their obedience to Yahuwah. Gad was the 11th oldest and was known for his courage and boldness. I think that's probably a trait that goes among them all, right? Asher was the 12th and youngest tribe, and he was known for his joyful and happy disposition. Does anyone remember who was probably the most joyful and happy of the apostles? They often call him the encourager. I believe that was the Bar Tamai, I believe. I believe that's the same guy, which is Nathanael. I could be wrong. It could have been someone else that came in later. But I would say they're all pretty full of encouragement, right? You know, what's that? Yeah. Numbers 119, and actually I think Barnabas might have been a different fella, I think. Maybe he came in later. Yeah, but I think he was a disciple that came from the apostles. He was not one of the original. As Yahuwah commanded Moshe, so he numbered them in the wilderness of Sinai. And the children of Reuben and Yasharel's eldest son, by their generations, after their families, by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names, by their polls, every male from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war. Those that were numbered of them, even of the tribe of Reuben, were 40 and 6,500. Now, those apostles, were they being prepared for war? Yeah, absolutely, they were being prepared for war. A war that the weapons was their mouth, right? The testimony of Yahusha and the Torah, that was their weapons. Could you imagine being prepped for war and your only weapon is just the word of Yahuwah? That's a beautiful thing, if you ask me. I would rather fight wars with that weapon than anything else. What'd you say, Bray? That's it. I mean, we walk in the footsteps of the princes of Yasharal, the 12 apostles. Each generation has chosen ones, right, that are called forth to teach the Torah and the testimony, that gather unto themselves disciples and establish the kingdom of Yahuwah in every generation. Numbers 122, of the children of Shimon, by their generations, after the family, by the house of their fathers, those that were numbered of them, according to the number of the names, by their polls, every man from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war, those that were numbered of them, even of the tribe of Shimon, were 50 and 9,300. You see the large scale of these numbers? Keep in mind, not all of these actually crossed into the promised land. Okay? Of the children of Gad, by their generations after the families, by the house of the families, according to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war, those that were numbered of them, even of the tribe of Gad, were 40,005,650. Of the children of Yehuda, by their generations after the families, by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names, from the 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war, those that were numbered of them, even of the tribe of Yehuda, were 314,600. Of the children of Issachar, by the generations after the families, by the house of the fathers, according to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war, those that were numbered of them, even of the tribe of Issachar, were 50,004,400. Can you read that fast? Of the children of Zebulun, by the generations after the families, by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names, from the 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war, those that were numbered of them, even of the tribe of Zebulun, were 57,400. Almost done. Of the children of Joseph, namely of the children of Ephraim, by the generations after the families, by the house of the fathers, according to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war, those that were numbered of them, even of the tribe of Ephraim, were 40,500. We're getting a little smaller in the numbers here, aren't we? Those that were numbered of them, even of the tribe of Ephraim, were 40,500. Of the children of Manasseh, by the generations after the families, by the house of the fathers, according to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war. Those that were numbered of them, even of the tribe of Manasseh, were 32,200. Of the children of Benjamin, by their generations after the families, by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war, those that were numbered of them, even of the tribe of Benjamin, were 35,400. Of the children of Dan, by the generations after the families, by the house of the fathers, according to the number of the names, from the 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war, those that were numbered of them, even of the tribe of Dan, were 62,700. Of the children of Asher, by the generations after the families, by the house of the fathers, according to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war, those that were numbered of them, even of the tribe of Asher, were 41,500. Of the children of Naphtali, throughout the generations after the families, by the house of the fathers, according to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war, those that were numbered of them, even of the tribe of Naphtali, were 53,400. These are they that were numbered, which Moshe and Aaron numbered, and the princes of Yasharel, being 12 men, each one was for the house of their fathers. So were all those that were numbered of the children of Yasharel by the house of their fathers, from 20 years old and upward. All that were able to go forth to war in Yasharel, even all they that were numbered, were 600,000, 3,550 men. Highlight again here the princes of Yasharel, 12 men, each one for the house of his fathers. Can I get a raise of hand? Who in here is for the house of your father? Not very many of us, right? There wasn't many back then either. They represented their father's house. Their father's house represented Yahuwah. Are you gathering what I'm putting out here? It's the same pattern that we live in now. Who among the heathen is willing to stand up as a beacon of hope to represent their father's house? Remember, Genesis is the Bereshit is the building of the house. It's the beginning of the house, is the book of Genesis. You see, Yahuwah is building a house. And we got to the end here where we're numbered in the house of the Father. 12 representing each tribe moving forward. Okay? So we're going to now go into the numbering continues. And I'll be right back. I gotta use the bathroom. Guarantee you it gets more fun. glad you're here. Love you, bro. I'm glad you're here, Victoria. Love you, sister. Wonderful. Adding to the numbers. Hallelujah. For Yahuwah's sake. Does anyone guess where we're going to go from here? Oh, there is some. Let's go. Isaiah 53:12. Therefore will I divide him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he has poured out his soul into death, and he was numbered with the transgressors, and he bore the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors. Who is that? Yahusha, from the book of the good news, known as Ishiyahu, right? Yes. Did you see there? Therefore will I divide him a portion with the great. You see, the great, as we know them, were those men that were chosen to represent the 12 tribes. It goes all the way back to the 12 patriarchs, the 12 sons of Jacob. Then it goes back to Jacob and Isaac and Abraham, the great ones. Then it goes back to Noah and Enoch, the great ones. All right? He will divide a portion with the great. Who's the portion? All who believe into the name of Yahusha and the Torah and the testimony, right? Yes. He will divide them. He will divide the spoil with the strong. What's the spoil?
The things we get from that are given to us, heathens give us.
No, see, the definition of spoil is actually lost. To spoil someone means to steal from them, to ruin them.
So that's the stuff we take away.
Yes. When you spoil a child, you're actually stealing from them knowledge, character, strength, self-sufficiency, right? You're stealing from them. You're creating a dependent child, a ruined child, a desolate child, a child without wisdom, a child without knowledge, because you do everything for them. Does that make sense? To spoil a child doesn't mean you give them much. It means you steal much from them. It's important to understand English, as it is a terrible language. All right? So he's going to divide those who have been stolen from with the strong. See, the strong still have everything. They still have the knowledge. They still have the wisdom. They still have all this stuff, right? But there is a group of people that have nothing, that are desolate, destroyed, empty, okay? Because he has poured out his soul into death. He was numbered. See, this is important here. He was numbered with the transgressors. Where was he numbered at? In the wilderness. Yahusha was numbered among them in the wilderness. He was crucified outside the city in the wilderness. Makes sense? You see how the book of Numbers ties in here, which I even hate calling it the book of Numbers. It's called the book of Bidmar, the book of wilderness. Okay? Anyways. Matthew 25:31, when the Son of Adam shall come in his glory and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory. And before him shall be gathered all nations. And he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divides his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Here is the numbering of the nations. When he goes like this, there's a great divide. This number over here is numbered among the goats. This number over here is numbered among the sheep. It's important to know where you're going to be numbered, isn't it? Because he will number them. He divides them, in other words. A numbering of people is a division of people. Isn't that what they call it in mathematics? To divide something? You're exchanging numbers. You're taking a whole number and you're creating two, I don't know, mathematician, what's that called? When you take like a big number and you make it into little numbers, it's called a division. Thank you. It's called a division. Do you see that? The great shepherd. Now, did you remember all the names that I just went over? What did they contain in them? El. El means mighty shepherd, the great shepherd. Do you see how the great shepherd divided even the names of those he chose? He was a representation even in their names. You see, the great shepherd is here again, and he's creating a division. This division is from all the numbered of the earth that have from the beginning existed, and he divides them according to their lot. Right? This is very important. Revelation 7:3 saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our Elohim in their foreheads. And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000, all the tribes of the children of Yasharal. Of the tribe of Yehuda were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Reuben were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Gad were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Asher were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Naphtali were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Manasseh were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Shimon were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Levi were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Issachar were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Zebulun were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Joseph were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Benjamin were sealed 12,000. Why is this important? Uh-oh. I need someone to plug my phone in. Rapido. Thank you. My battery pack's laying on my nightstand. If you have a long cord, you could plug it in with that. What's that? It's equally divided, but why is it important that the servants of Elohim are sealed first before the earth comes under the tribulation? Huh? We're his, and are we removed from the earth? As a sign of what? What were you going to say? Dan didn't make it, that's true. You see, when the Great Tribulation happens, what are people going to look for? Afflicted. They're going to look for apostles, which simply just means sent ones. It didn't die, did it? You can plug it in through that on the bottom. It takes a C-type. So your white cord, is that a C-type or a lightning? C-type? That gray cord right there is a C-type. So if you plug that into the battery and then into the phone, microphone, it'll charge the phone also. Thank you so much. All right. I want to make sure we're still live before I continue that. I don't want people to miss this. Is it still working? Let me know if the phone starts charging. Is the light on the battery pack? Is the red light on the microphone?
Yeah.
Can someone check that we still have audio to make sure that didn't disrupt the audio? If it did, I'll unplug the microphone. Because sometimes it does interfere. Looks like we may have a newcomer. Christopher, would you get the door? Oh, it's Ralph. Here I thought it was a new guy.
Hello, newcomer.
I saw the New York shirt and I'm like, surely none of us are wearing a New York shirt. It's good we got audio. All right, fantastic. Thank you. I just don't want people to miss this. This is so vital to our understanding. So what did Moshe do in the kingdom of Yasharel in the beginning? He gathered 12 people to represent the house of Yahusha, or the house of Yahuwah, going forward. What did Yahusha do when he came back to redeem all of mankind? He gathered 12 men of Yasharel to represent the kingdom in earth. What's happening here? Well, for one thing, the earth has multiplied so significantly that it needs a lot of people to represent the kingdom of Yahusha in the earth. That's correct. 12,000 from each tribe are being called to become the representatives of the kingdom of Yahuwah in all the earth. Because of the great multitude of people, there's billions of people on the earth now. Yeah, way more. And it takes a whole lot more servants. Do you remember the words of the Messiah? He says, great is the harvest, but what? But the laborers are few. You see, I believe that these 12,000 from each of these tribes are the representation of the called ones to go forth in the time of tribulation and to preach the Torah and the testimony of Yahusha. You understand? That could be you. That could be you. We'll know when the hour comes upon us. Until then, we'll continue in the truth until that time, right? But there is a very good chance that if you're willing to accept now in the midst of Babylon the Torah and the testimony of Yahusha, hello, brother, I'm glad you're here. Yeah, Shabbat Shalom, brother. So if you're willing to accept this now, I believe, and walk by faith and not by sight, I believe there's a greater reward for you when the hour hits and there people are tested by the signs in the heavens and in the earth, and they're like, oh, shoot, this must be it. Does that make sense? Notice they're not taken out of the earth, but they're sealed while the earth is being destroyed, so that those of the earth, the inhabitants of the earth, have somewhere to run to for hope, for the good news. Okay, this is quite significant, as there are many doctrines out there that teach that there's going to be this great removal of the righteous ones before the tribulation, which is complete garbage. The Messiah says that the chaff will be removed first. That means the wasted stuff, the stuff that doesn't endure the fire, the stuff that's not truly of the kingdom. Revelation 7:9. Here's why I believe the 12,000 are the great apostles of the last days. After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. Where did the great multitude come from? Anybody know? Yeah, there you go. It's on the screen. Great job, brother. How did they get there? They endured. You see here? 7:14, and I said unto him, Sir, you know. And he said to me, These are they which came out of great tribulation, and have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. How did they know about the Lamb? Oh, come on. Why aren't you working? There we go. Okay, I don't like the whole writing thing. Because of these guys. These guys that were sealed, right? Oh, it's not working. Come on, get back there. These guys. The 144,000 were a testimony in the earth so that the great multitude would know the way to the kingdom. They would know how to wash their robes in the midst of the tribulation. The 144,000 were sealed from the tribulation, but not removed from it. Then came the destruction of the earth, in which case the great multitude then realized their sin and their error and sought out one of those 12,000 per tribe and clung to them during the tribulation. Because they clung to them in faith, which means to cling to the feet of Yahusha, which means to cling to the good news, right? The Torah and the testimony is the good news. Because they clung to that, their robes were washed in that tribulation, and then they stood there as a great multitude at the throne. Isn't that cool? But if there isn't those who are willing to stand up for the Father's house in this hour, if there isn't the 144,000 people in this generation that are like, I will stand for the Torah and the testimony as a testament to my Father's house, then time must continue forward until that number is fulfilled. I believe we're waiting for that number to be fulfilled, as it is written in this book that he is waiting for that number to be fulfilled. maybe we're getting close, as we see in the generations that are now happening. A great revival of the testimony and the Torah is beginning to happen. The true name of Yahuwah is beginning to be spoken again out of the mouth of the Kodeshim. And people are speaking with zealousness and boldness that the Torah still stands as the Messiah said it would until earth is destroyed. And the testimony of the Messiah is still in power in the earth. The true Messiah, not the Greek Roman garbage, right? The Messiah that taught the Torah. Hallelujah. It's happening, and I believe it's coming forth. The tribe of Levi, the exemption from being numbered. As we saw in the book of Numbers, the tribe of Levi was not numbered among them. They're a special people set aside specifically for the purpose of Yahuwah. But the Leviim, after the tribe of their fathers, were not numbered among them. For Yahuwah had spoken unto Moshe, saying, Only you shall not number the tribe of Levi, neither take the sum of them among the children of Yasharal. But you shall appoint the Leviim over the tabernacle of testimony, and over all the vessels thereof, and over all things that belong to it. They shall bear the tabernacle, and all the vessels thereof, and they shall minister unto it, and shall encamp round about it. Now, in here, did you see Levi numbered in here anywhere? Read it again. Yes. What's the difference here? Why was Levi numbered among the 144, but not among the 12 ready to go to war back in the book of Wilderness? They were maintaining a physical tabernacle. That's one. There's no wrong answers here. I don't know. But that's a very good thought. Because they had a lot to take care of there, right? That's a very good reasoning. I believe that's a great answer. My thoughts too on this is the Torah and the testimony were lost in the generations that this is speaking of. So the Leviim that are raised up in this day are those who again discover through the Ruach HaKodesh that the Torah and testimony still stand. So that's why Levi earned themselves a spot in the war that's coming at the end of days. Levi now becomes a great warrior in the last days. And their fight in this is the sword of truth, the Torah and the testimony, as they were always set aside to guard the Ark of the Covenant. Now that there is no physical Ark of the Covenant, the Leviim can now be numbered, which you were saying, can now be numbered among the sons of Yasharal, because now the covenant that they guard is in here through the Ruach HaKodesh, Jeremiah 31 and Ezekiel 36. So now Levi is numbered among the 144,000. The Leviim, I believe, are the first of the 12 to be raised up in the latter days. These are men that are full of boldness and courage and strength, willing to stand in the face of the billion-member army that stands against them and say, no, the Torah and testimony still stand. They're the ones that gather eventually the other tribes of Yasharel back to them, as Levi was always at the center of the camp. Always. The Leviim were around the tabernacle. They guarded the tabernacle. All the other tribes were around the Leviim. So I believe that the true Levites in the latter days are those that blow the whistle or the ram's horn, saying, return ye to the house of your father. Come back to the Torah and the testimony. It's time for the second coming of the Messiah. And so they're being regathered, not to a physical Yasharal, but to a Yasharal built not by human hands, but by the Ruach HaKodesh and the testimony of Yahusha. Posible. And when the tabernacle sets forward, so this is important to apply to these days that we're in. When the tabernacle, what's the tabernacle? When the testimony and the Torah of Yahuwah is set forward, right? The body of the Messiah, that's us. When the body of the Messiah is set forward, the Leviim shall take it down, and when the tabernacle is to be pitched, the Leviim shall set it up, and the stranger that comes nigh shall be put to death. Who was it that destroyed the temple of Yahuwah that Shlomo built? If you look deeper into the books of Ezra, who was it that destroyed the original temple of Shlomo? The first one. No man. It was no man that destroyed it. It was the angels, the messengers. Yahuwah sent his messenger to destroy the original temple so that no man would desecrate it. The second temple was defiled by the Greeks and other nations. But the first one was destroyed by the hand of Yahuwah so that no man would touch it.
This tabernacle.
Yeah. No. The one of Shlomo.
One of Shlomo.
Yes. If you read the book of Ezra, before Babylon took over, Yahuwah sent his messengers to destroy it and to gather the instruments thereof, the sacred vessels, so that no man could have it. And I'm not talking about the little spoons and the menorahs and stuff that eventually were taken. I'm talking about the sacred objects, like the staff of Aaron, right? The original sapphire stones of the testimony. These things were taken by the messengers and kept sacred. Check it out for yourself in the books of Ezra. Absolutely. Sapphire stones are the tablets of the testimony, known as the 10 words, the 10 Debarim, or what most English speakers call the 10 Commandments. But it's not actually 10 Commandments. It's the 10 words of the marriage covenant between Yasharal and Yahuwah. So here we see the Leviim taken down and the Leviim putting up. Okay, why is that significant? Because of the 12,000 per tribe, including the Leviim in the latter days. I believe it's the Leviim that rise first, and they begin to rebuild the tabernacle of Yahusha, which is the body of the Messiah. This, not that, not the four-walled structure with the Nimrod worship steeple, but this, the actual body of the Messiah, which is where 2 or 3 are gathered in his name, there he is also. That's his tabernacle. As Yahuwah hated being trapped in any form of structure made by man's hands. He said, who am I to be contained in 4 walls? To his servant David, right? And he meant it. He wanted to walk among his people. That is being rebuilt right now in the lives of those who are grabbing hold of the Torah and testimony. I believe it's the Leviim who stands up first and says, we are pitching back up the true tabernacle of Yahusha. All right? And the children of Yasharal shall pitch their tents, every man by his own camp and every man by his own standard throughout their hosts. Here's what happens. When the Leviim, the banner carriers of Yahusha, put their flag up, other people come to them and then put their banners down and begin to build another family. Makes sense? This is what is happening all around the world right now. Bannermen of the Leviim are putting their banner up and saying, we are coming back to the Torah and the Testament. We're rebuilding the first assembly of believers according to the book of Acts. Spirit-led, Torah-following, mighty warriors of Yahuwah. Then all the multitudes begin to see them and look upon them, and they're like, wait a minute. That's what the scriptures actually say. And so they come according to the banner of their house and put their flags down around the bannermen of the Leviim, and they're rebuilding the sanctuary of Yahuwah. Does that make sense? Can you visualize that in your mind, what's happening today? It's a beautiful thing. the Leviim shall pitch round about the tabernacle of testimony, that there be no wrath upon the assembly of the children of Yasharal. And the Leviim shall guard the watch of the tabernacle of testimony. And the children of Yasharal did according to all that Yahuwah commanded Moshe. You see, it's the Leviim that originally do the guard and the watch. Then all the people come and they're like, yes, this is good. We join you. And I believe this is the rebuilding of the true third temple of Yahusha. Not some stupid building in a fake Israel, but it's the real rebuilding of the third temple as it was smashed down by religions of this world. But now the Leviim are becoming bold again through the Ruach HaKodesh because we are a chosen generation picked out of the crop of the earth and said, now I will put my standard among them. Now I will breathe life back into the Leviim, which will breathe life back into the children of Yasharel, and we will come back together again in the name of Yahuwah Yahusha, and we will begin to rebuild the ancient path. We will be rebuilding the walls of Yerushalayim. We will establish again the kingdom of Yahuwah on this earth. Now, it's happening all around the earth as I speak. The question is, will you go out with the great whore? That's the question. Who is the great whore? Hosea 2:1, say ye unto the brother, am I, and to your sisters, Rohama. Plead with your mother, plead, for she is not my woman. Who is the mother? Who gave birth? Yasharal. Yasharal was the mother. Yahuwah was to be her husband. Yahuwah was to be the husband and Yasharel the bride. Yasharel was the mother of all who came out of her. Plead with your mother, plead, for she is not my woman anymore, right? Neither am I her man. This is Yahuwah speaking. Let her therefore put away her whoredoms out of her sight and her adulteries from between her breasts, lest I strip her naked and set her as in the day that she was born, and make her as a wilderness, and set her like a dry land, and slay her with thirst. Now, what does the Torah say? When you take a woman from the slaves, what are you supposed to do to her? That's it. You strip her naked. You shave her hair. Why? Because hair has memory. Look it up, science guy. It does. It retains memory. Shave her head, all of her body, shave all of her hair off. You strip her naked, which means take off the old garments of whoredom, right? You click her nails, but did you know her nails have memory in them too? If you had a sickness in your body, what forms in your nail? A spot, a blemish. The nails are like a record book that keep growing out, and they'll have blemishes in them showing that you were sick or diseased. Yeah, look it up, science guy. Check it out for yourself. So you trim off her diseased nails, okay? Trim off her diseased nails. Are you seeing this? This is Yahuwah saying, hey, I'm going to return you back to that slavery again. I put nice garments on you. I allowed your hair to grow. I allowed your nails to grow. I retrained you in my ways. I called you my wife. But you went out and whored yourself with many other gods in the nations. Do I need again shave your head, strip you naked, cut your nails, and throw you back out into the dry place I took you from? Ooh, I hope not. Ooh, it's terrible, right? This is after the book of Lamentations, too. And I will not have mercy upon her children, for they be the children of whoredoms. Actually, I could be wrong about that Lamentations thing. And I will not have mercy upon her children, for they be the children of whoredoms. That's us, by the way. We are the children. For their mother has played the harlot. She that conceived them has done shamefully. For she said, I will go after my lovers that give me my bread and my water, my wool and my flax, my oil and my drink. Therefore, behold, I will hedge up your way with thorns, and make a wall that she shall not find her paths. He frustrates the paths or the way of the wicked. You see, these people were giving what Yahuwah was giving to them. They were giving the glory to Baal. They were giving the glory over to Gadriel, who they called God. Yeah.
My father is a head.
Mm.
My father is
Wow. One of the names of Moshe is my father is a hedge. Wow, that is awesome. So he's saying here, I'm going to remove that hedge from you. I'm going to remove, in other words, I'm going to remove myself from you. I'm going to remove Moshe from you. Yeah. Yikes. And she shall follow after her lovers, but she shall not overtake them. And she shall seek them, but shall not find them. Then shall she say, I will go and return to my first man, for then was it better with me than now. Isn't that like us? We were in the Babylonian church. We were saying, where is my lovers? I'm singing the songs. I'm paying the tithes. I'm in the ministries. I'm doing all this stuff. But why do I feel so empty? Eh? Because we forgot our first love, right? Our first love is Yahuwah. That first commandment to love Yahuwah with all your mind, soul, strength, all of who you are was removed from the adulterating with the great whore, who is the synchronization of all religions into one, better known as Christianity. For she did not know that I gave her grain and wine and oil, and multiplied her silver and gold, which they prepared for Baal. Therefore will I return and take away my grain in the time thereof, my wine in the season thereof, and will recover my wool and my flax given to cover her nakedness. And now will I discover her lewdness in the sight of her lovers, and none shall deliver her out of my hand. I will also cause her mirth to cease, her feast days, her new moons, and her Shabbats, and all her solemn feasts. He did that, didn't he? He allowed the destruction to come to his Torah and his testimony. He allowed destruction to come to his name, that it would be hidden from those who loved the great whore more than him. And so he allowed himself to be forgotten so that he would no longer be profaned among the heathens. And I will destroy her vines and her fig trees, whereof she has said, these are my rewards that my lovers have given me. And I will make them a forest, and the beasts of the field shall eat them. And I will visit upon her the days of Baalim, wherein she burned incense to them. And she decked herself with her earrings and her jewels, and she went after her lovers and forgot me, says Yahuwah. Yahuwah becomes our Yahusha and remarries us. Here's the good news, friends. I just told you a bunch of bad news. I told you bad news that the whole world was going to forget who Yahuwah was, that the whole world was going to forsake his Sabbaths, that was going to forsake his new moons, they were going to forsake his holy days, and in exchange, they were going to worship Baal. I just told you the terrible bad news of 2025, that the whole world worships Baal. But there is good news. You ready? Therefore, behold, I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness and speak comfortably unto her. Whew! Isn't that right? Each one of you, I guarantee you, has a story where you felt separated from all the multitude that you were among while you were worshiping Baal. You kept feeling a tug. You kept feeling a quiet voice leading you out to a place of quietness known as the wilderness. And I will give her vineyards from thence in the valley of Achor for a door of hope. The valley of Achor, by the way, if you look that up, it's a beautiful study. It's where you go to die to yourself. The valley of Achor is where you go to empty yourself out in the desert, saying, I am a sinner. Oh my Yahuwah, how greatly I have transgressed against you. Kill me. It's where you go to die. It's where you realize the Torah. Because when you realize the Torah, you die. Because the Torah is judgment against you. It's where you have to die in order to be reborn. It's where you become a new creation. That's the hope. That's the hope of the valley of Achor, where you have to die to self, take up your stake, and follow the word. Each one of you, if you believe in Yahusha HaMashiach and follow the Torah and the testimony, have already been to the wilderness, have already come to the point of dying to yourself in the valley of Achor, and are now following the hope who is Yahusha HaMashiach. If you haven't yet come to that point of dying to yourself, of letting go of all the ways of Balaam, of all the ways of satisfying your needs, of all the ways of selfish fulfillment, of all the ways of hoping in the strengths of this world, of all the ways of putting your hope in God, in other words, money and fortune, of all the ways of seeking your life and to extend it in the ways of science, in the ways of the health industry, in the ways of the pharmaceuticals. And if you haven't yet died to all of that, now's your chance. Now's your chance to say, I acknowledge my sin according to the Torah, the great mirror of Yahuwah upon my life. And I seek Yahusha HaMashiach that taught the Torah of his father. And I seek to walk in it according to the Ruach HaKodesh, to walk in the truth. Now's your chance to come to that valley and say, I surrender all. Not some, but all of it. You have to die completely in the valley of Achor in order to receive the door of hope, which is Yahusha, by the way. He is the door, the Devar, or the Dalit, excuse me, the Dalit. And she shall sing there, as in her days of her youth. What happens when we receive the salvation of Yahusha? Our soul is filled with joy. And we begin to sing because we just realized that we shed off all those nasty garments of Balaam worship. We just shaved our heads as if we just came out of setting ourselves apart for Yahuwah, the Nazarite vow, right? Where we died to self so that we might receive hope. We just got rid of all the memory of the profane things we did for Baal. We were reborn. So joy comes out of our soul. And as in the day when she came up out of the land of Mitzrayim, in other words, came out of that land of slavery to sin, and it shall be at that day, says Yahuwah, that you shall call me Ishi, and shall call me no more Baali. For I will take away the names of Baalim out of your mouth, and they shall no more be remembered by their name. Isn't that happening in your heart? You used to call him God, which is Gadriel. Now you call him Yahuwah. You are getting rid of the Baalim names. What's up, brother?
I think that also part of what's recognized us.
Yeah.
Even things like, oh, I remember who you were, or I can't even imagine that you were that.
That's right. They don't recognize us. They don't recognize us at all. Why? Because we have become a new creation. If they still recognize you, dear friends, you haven't been reborn. That's the truth. They won't recognize you. They'll be like, oh, how far you fell. You started out great, Nathan, but oh, you fell off the wagon. Remember, the wagon comes from Jacob riding to Egypt. That's where that term falling off the wagon meant. Because Jacob rode on a wagon to the land of salvation, which was in Egypt, that he was saved in that hour from famine and death. So when they say you fell off the wagon, that's a reference back to our father Jacob. They may not even know that, but that's where that comes from. But they say that about you because they don't recognize you anymore, because you're no longer worshiping Baalim. You're a new creation. Okay? This is the depth. And remember, this is about marriage. Hosea 2 was about marriage. It was about marriage between Yahuwah and his daughter Yasharal. Do you notice there is no other daughter? There's no stepdaughter of the Christian church. It's not in here. It's not in the prophets. It's not in the Torah. Why? Because a stepchild is not his. He has one offspring. One. And that is his nation, Yasharal. And if you're not in it, you're not in it. You're of another offspring. You're of another mother. Yes, your father is Hasatan. I am not. Well, of course. Here, take the microphone so everyone can hear you. No, please, because otherwise the people online are going to be like, what?
So in Hosea, when you read 2:14, when when you read Hosea 2:14, it aligns with Ezekiel 20:35, which says, "I will bring you into the wilderness of the peoples, and I will be the judge with you there face to face," which is in reference to the high places, which is false worship. And then it also, let's see, goes along with Joshua 7:26. And they raised over him a great heap of stones to this day. And Yahuwah turned back from the heat of his anger on this account, and named in the name of that place, which is the Valley of Achor, until this day. So that is, talking about the Valley of Achor, which is where you're kind of emptied out and die to yourself.
Here comes something very important, okay? Are you ready? This is how you know if you're in covenant. This is how you know if you are the betrothed of Yahusha HaMashiach. Hosea 2:18, it says, "And in that day I will cut a covenant for them with the beasts of the field and with the fowls of heaven and with the creeping things of the ground, and I will break the bow and the sword and the battle out of the earth, and will make them to lie down safely. And I will betroth you unto me forever." Yeah, I will betroth you unto me. Now, here's the things that you know you're in the marriage covenant of Yahusha. Okay? What are the terms of the marriage? Righteousness, judgment, loving kindness, mercy, faithfulness. Ah, it sounds kind of like the fruits of the Spirit, doesn't it? Oh, righteousness, judgment, loving kindness, mercy, faithfulness. Well, friends, if we're faithful in righteousness, what does that mean? Where in the Bible does it say if you do these things it will be as unto you righteousness? Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, all of the above. It's all in there. It's in the Torah. Righteousness is doing the works of Yahuwah, not your own. Okay? So if we're faithful to that, and we're faithful, then we are faithful to our betrothed. Otherwise, we go back to being a whore, doing everything that pleases our heart instead of what pleases Yahuwah. This is vital to know that you are in the marriage covenant. And it shall come to pass in that day, I will hear, says Yahuwah, I will hear the heavens, and they shall hear the earth. And the earth shall hear the grain, and the wine, and the oil, and they shall hear Yazrael. I will sow under her, I will sow her unto me in the earth. Notice it says in the earth, okay? And I'll have mercy upon her that had not obtained mercy. And I will say to them, which were not my people, you are my people. Who's that? All nations at that point get brought in to the marriage covenant. That's the most good news thing that we could ever hear. It means all nations are given a chance to repent and turn to the way of Yahuwah and become his betrothed. You are my people, and they shall say, you are my Elohim. This is vital here. This is vital because if we're not claiming Yahuwah as our Elohim, in other words, we're not doing righteousness, judgment, mercy, loving kindness, and faithfulness, we're not calling him our Yahuwah. We're still calling Belim our Yahuwah. Hope that makes sense. Will you prove by the way you live that you are a Yedid of Yahuwah? Yedid means a beloved son or a beloved daughter. It means a beloved one of Yahuwah. will you prove by the way you live. Luke 16:1. And he said also unto his Talmidim, there was a certain rich man which had a steward, and the same was accused unto him that he had wasted his goods. And he called him and said unto him, how is it that I hear this of you? Give an account of your stewardship, for you may be no longer steward. Then the steward said within himself, what shall I do? For my Adonai takes away from me the stewardship. I cannot dig. To beg, I am ashamed. I am resolved what to do, that when I am put out of the stewardship, they may receive me into their houses. So he called every one of his Adonai's debtors unto him, and said unto the first, how much do you owe unto my Adonai? And he said, 100 measures of oil. And he said unto him, take your bill, and sit down quickly, and write 50. Then said he to another, and how much do you owe? And he said, 100 measures of wheat. And he said unto him, take your bill, and write 80. Excuse me. And the Adonai commended the unjust steward, because he had done wisely, for the children of this world are in the nation wiser than the children of light. And I say unto you, make to yourselves friends of the mammon of unrighteousness, that when you fail, they may receive you into everlasting habitations. He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much, and he that is unjust in the least is unjust also in much. If there ye have not been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, who will commit to your trust to the true riches? In other words, it's to count these things of this life worthless, to have mercy upon people in the things of this world, to treat your neighbor as yourself, because those who give mercy, to mercy will be given, even in the things of this world, as we are merciful to one another, because we have the knowledge that what we have laid up in the treasures in heaven are greater than anything in this earth, so we willingly give up of the things of this life. Makes sense? If you're not even faithful in the things of this world, do you think Yahuwah is going to give you the things of the world to come? No. So if you're not even being good stewards of the things you have in this life, he's not going to give anything to you for the kingdom to come. He's not. So if you're dealing unwisely with mammon or money, right? How are you going to be a good steward of the real riches? You're not going to be. So this is very important that you're a good steward of the things of this world, because it reflects how you can be a good steward of the things to come. This goes back to the nation of Yasharal that I just read to you about the great whore, because you see, Yahuwah had made them rich and fat. They had all that they needed. They were lending and not borrowing, but they forgot Yahuwah. They became the bad steward. As they became crushed, now those who are of Yasharel must make friends with the unrighteous. In other words, become good stewards of what little they have, because they were crushed by Yahuwah. But as they become good stewards of that little, Yahuwah raises up again a remnant of Yasharal, because they were good stewards with the little they had in this world. He then begins to raise them back up and gives them the true riches, the knowledge and wisdom of Yahuwah. And I believe that that's happening again. I believe there are those who have been good stewards of even the things of this world, that now he's raising them back up by giving them again his spirit and knowledge and wisdom. And it's a beautiful thing as we see the nation of the true Yasharal growing again in these small home groups all around the world. That is the restoring of Yasharal back to its original form. And it's beautiful. Never mind the fake Israel over there killing the innocent. Even though the fake Israel was given much in this life, think about it. This state of Israel, built by the richest men in this world, are going around killing innocent people. Do you think Yahuwah is going to stand for that much longer? I don't think so.
What are those? What are the two triangles?
The two triangles? What is the two triangles, Christopher?
Star. They call it the star.
The Star of David, which is actually the Star of Shalomo, which is actually the Star of Melech. What are the two triangles represent? You know.
It represents beautiful things, but one thing that it does represent is it tells one of the secrets.
Secrets of the flat earth.
That's one of the things. It also represents equality as above, so below. Crazy doctrine that there's equal.
So they represent the quality of as above, so below of the satanic world. Those who worship Baphomet, oftentimes symbolized by the fingers pointing up and down. Jesus does that. Yeah, what's another one? Yeah, I'm just saying in the microphone as well.
Three-sided. Three is a big number in the occult. Always they often do it.
So the three-sided triangle represents the Trinity, the unholy Trinity. Yeah, numerology.
And then so
Yeah, so it equals 666, right?
there's two of them, 3 and 2, right? 3 is the big Masonic number.
Yeah.
Now you combine the triangles. Now you'll get 666 in a couple different ways. It has 6 points.
6 points.
It has 6 triangles now.
6 triangles.
And then it also has. You can look at it and you can. There's 3 of them. Oh, on the inside, I think it's better.
On the inside is a hexagon.
Hexagon,
Or
6
that would be a
triangles, and a 6-pointed star.
6-pointed star. A sixagon.
All
right.
Is the star of
Rephaim, yeah.
It's in Amos chapter.
It is in Amos.
So what would David? They call it the Star of David.
Yeah, which is a lie.
Why?
Yeah.
My question.
Okay.
What would David be
David.
wielding?
David
What would be the original flag?
would look more like this.
It would say his name. It would show the menorah. Something like that.
It may not have the names on it, but it would have definitely been blue and white with the menorah. Yeah. The names may not have been on it. I think the original flag was just the menorah with the blue and white. The menorah represents many things. The most important is the light of the world, who is the Messiah, right? In Isaiah, what is it, 10? 1 through 11 or something like that. It talks about the 7 branches of the menorah, which is the 7 spirits of Yahuwah. So it represents each one of the lights, right, that go out into the world and illuminate mankind, giving us knowledge, giving us wisdom, giving us the fear of Yahuwah, giving us the ruah of Yahuwah, a new spirit, a spirit of holiness, right? Giving us understanding, the spirit of understanding. It represents the 7 spirits of Yahuwah, which can also be found in the book of Revelations. Zid. The blue and white threads of the Zid. It's true.
To remind you about his 10 words, at least.
Yeah, the 10 words of the marriage covenant. Every time we look at it, we're supposed to remember the covenant we have with salvation. Huh?
Oh, we just make our ZT for which one, but he's talking about formal.
Well,
The ones that were on the 4 corners of the priest's garments. There's
right.
a specific amount of knots.
Well, the instructions for it is simply to just have a single cord of blue. That's the only instruction. Cool, huh? So I like it here where it says, who will commit to your trust the true riches? You see, what did the Messiah teach? Is he taught us holiness through contentment, by giving up the things of this life in order to get the things of the life to come. And he's asking here, who will commit to your trust the true riches? Who will actually take the words of the Messiah, which is true riches, and put them to practice, not just in their heart, but by in their daily life. That is actually trusting in the true riches. When he says to be like the birds and not worry about tomorrow, that's what we do. Most of the time, the crowd goes, "Ugh."
Yeah, what is it Yahusha that said, don't be like the heathens?
Don't be like the heathens. Give no thought for the morrow.
Be worried about the clothes you eat tonight.
Yep.
Or how to take
Bingo.
care of that. They're definitely not trusting in Yahuwah.
That's it. And so that is one of the greatest questions that the master ever asked. Who will commit to your trust the true riches? And he just got done talking about how people trust in their money and yet they'll forgive each other their debts of this earth. How much more should the people of Yahuwah forsake the mammon system and uphold the true riches of the kingdom of Yahuwah, which means to forgive people of their sin, to have true mercy upon one another, to teach holiness, right? That is the true riches. Luke 16:12, and if ye have not been faithful in that which is another man's, who shall give you that which is your own? No servant can serve two Adonim, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to one and despise the other. You cannot serve Elohim and Mammon. In other words, you cannot serve this world and Yahuwah. You can't. Because you're going to end up putting off the things of the kingdom of Yahuwah to go after the things of the kingdom of this world. You're going to. Women that were called to be mothers and cling to a man of Yahuwah to be their wives will forsake that and they'll go after their own escapade. They'll go after their own titles. They'll go after their own gain in this life, seeking for themselves reputation and wealth. What was the true purpose of a woman? To be the anchor of a household, to have children of Yasharal and to raise them up in the Torah and to teach them righteousness. But the world teaches them to forsake that and seek after titles and great power of their own, authority of their own. That is actually against the kingdom. That's taking the riches of the world and forsaking the riches of the kingdom. And now women are having children until they're in their 30s or later, which significantly reduces their impact on this world. What is, I mean, and I'm not just trying to attack women, I'll get to men in a second, but at the end of a woman's life, what does she have to say for herself if she hasn't produced righteous offspring? I was a great insert word. Miriam, the mother of Yahusha, was a great servant in the temple of Yahuwah for most of her life. But what is she remembered for? Giving birth to a righteous offspring. She had a great title. In fact, in her book, it actually refers to her as the one fed by angels. What a title that is! Yet it meant nothing in the grand scheme of things. What really meant something was that she gave birth to righteous offspring, not just one, but many. That's greater than any title a woman could ever receive, right? Sarah was the companion of the father of nations. That would have been a great title to die with. But instead, she became the mother of many nations. That's even greater, isn't it? Absolutely. You see how much Yahuwah loves his women that he puts in the earth, that take hold of the purpose that he gives to them to raise up righteous offspring? I hope you see it, ladies. I hope any woman watching this video will take hold of your true calling in this world. And men, you were set to walk in the example of Yahusha, the Messiah. You were set to take a whip and drive out those who profane the name of Yahuwah. You were raised up to be mighty men of zeal for the house of Yahuwah, to flip those tables when people start mocking the name of Yahuwah, to flip those tables when people start trampling on the true way of Yasharal. That's right. You were meant to be men of zeal and boldness, just like Peter, who stood there in the face of all those religious people and said, should I obey you rather than Yahuwah? Come on. That's what you're meant to be. You're meant to raise up a household. You're meant to build a household of Yasharot. You're meant to establish the kingdom of Yahuwah on this earth so that a righteous woman has a place of safety to have the children. Without you, that woman has no hedge around her because you're out there chasing mammon. You're chasing and making covenants with unrighteous people, and you forsook the true riches of the kingdom because you're too busy trying to build your kingdom instead of his kingdom. What's up, brother? That's the truth. Men are too worried about adding to themselves instead of adding to the kingdom. We are called to be men of righteousness to add to the kingdom of Yahuwah, not to our own. Right, as my wife states, then all will be added unto us. All that crap that the heathen worries about. I call it crap because man does not live by bread alone, but by every word of Yahuwah. I have no doubt that if I were to be taken in the wilderness tomorrow and fed nothing but Yahuwah giving me his word, that I would survive. He did. So all the more would I if I was called to such a thing. I know that because he was my example. And if I walk in his perfect example, I will receive what he received. A place by his side. What more could we want than that? Anyways, I'll move on because I could go on forever. And if ye have not been faithful, remember those things of the kingdom, that faithfulness mentioned in Hosea? If ye have not been faithful in that which is another man's, who shall give you that which is your own? No servant can serve two Adonai, for either he will hate the one and love the other. You cannot serve Yahuwah and this world. And the perishim also, who are covetousness. So I'll just say this, and the religious folks who are covetous heard all these things, and they derided him. And he said unto them, ye are they which justify yourselves before men. Aren't they, though? Don't the religious ones always have an excuse? But, is how I feel about it. Ye are they which justify yourselves before men, but Elohim knows your hearts. For that which is highly esteemed among men is an abomination in the sight of Elohim. Did y'all hear that? All this stuff out here, the religious people sanctify to themselves, that all it does is promote the man system, is an abomination to Yahuwah. He hates it. It's as if you were eating a mouse or a pig. He hates it. The Torah and the prophets were until Yahuchanan. Since that time, the kingdom of Elohim is preached, and every man presses into it. Presses into it. Presses into what? The Torah and the prophets. You see, the Torah and the prophets, until Yahuchanan, were a witness, a condemnation against the people, because they had all transgressed the Torah and the prophets. That's why it says until Yahuchanan, because salvation did not come until after the voice crying in the wilderness saying, repent and turn back, because the one who is greater comes after me, the one who can actually purify your soul. The Torah and the testimony condemned the entire world until the Messiah was preached. Now the way of redemption is preached. It's known as the good news. But there is no such thing as a gospel without confession of sin and the turning back to the Torah and the prophets. That's why it says the kingdom of Elohim is preached. What's the kingdom? It is the nation of Yasharal. If you don't return to the kingdom of Yasharal, you're not returning to the kingdom of Yahuwah. If you think that there's another kingdom alongside the kingdom of Yasharal, you're mistaken. For the great multitude clings to the 12 tribes of Yasharal, which I read to you in the book of Revelations. If you're not clinging to them, you're not going to be there at the throne. Because you have to press into it. In the Hebrew, it's the sign of the teeth. The pressing in is to bite into it. What is food? The true food is The Word. So if we're biting in to the kingdom of Yahuwah, we're biting in to the Word, which is the bread of life. If you do not eat my flesh and drink my blood, you cannot be mine, right? You're not called into him. You're not chosen. You're not in the nation. Yahusha made it very clear. You're not eating him who is the bread, who is the word. You're not eating the Torah. If you're not pressing into the Torah and putting the Torah in the depths of your soul so that it might come out of you, you're not in the kingdom. Because why? Luke 16:17. It is easier for heaven and earth to pass away than one tittle of the Torah to fail. Dear friends, anyone that teaches you there is a way to the kingdom without the Torah is a liar, and there is no light in them. Because again, the Messiah said in Luke 16:17 that heaven and earth is easier to be destroyed than for the Torah to be destroyed. So I stand here as witness in 2025 that the Torah and the testimony still stand against you. If you do not press into the Torah, now that redemption has come through the blood of the Messiah, if you do not press in at this hour, you are left out. You are a goat. But this is still your chance, because if you're hearing my voice, you're still alive, which means you have a chance to bite into the bread of life, who is Yahusha, who is the Word made flesh, that you might recognize your sin, turn from it, and walk in the light of the Torah, that you will receive salvation at the end of your life. Whosoever puts away his woman and marries another breaks wedlock, and whosoever marries her that is put away from her man breaks wedlock. This is important to what our brother Hosea was saying. I need you to hear it. There was a certain rich man that was clothed in purple and fine linen and fared sumptuously every day. And there was a certain beggar named Eleazar, which was laid at his gate, full of sores, and desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. And it came to pass that the beggar died and was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died and was buried. And in Sheol he lifted up his eyes, being in torments, and sees Abraham afar off, and Eleazar in his bosom. Excuse me. And he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Eleazar that he may dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. But Abraham said, Son, remember that you in your lifetime received your good things, and likewise Eleazar evil things. But now he is comforted, and you are tormented. And beside all this, between us and you, there is a great gulf fixed, so that they which would pass from hence to you cannot, neither can they pass to us that would come from thence. Then he said, I pray you therefore, Father, that you would send him to my father's house, for I have 5 brethren, that he may testify unto them, lest they also come into this place of torment. Abraham said unto him, They have Moshe and the prophets, let them hear them. And he said, Nay, Father Abraham, but if one went unto them from the dead, they will repent. And he said unto him, If they hear not, if they hear not, if they hear not Moshe and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded, though one rose from the dead. Dear friends, he's speaking of himself. Yahusha raised from the dead, and yet people still do not believe Moshe and the prophets. They still destroy the Torah and the testimony of Yahusha. They still claim to love Yahuwah, but are actually in bed with Baalim, because they refuse to listen and obey to the words of Moshe and the prophets, which is the testimony of Yahusha. Dear friends, it's time, you're hearing my voice, to put away Baalim, that mistress, that one who caused you to break wedlock with the true betrothal of the Messiah. It's time to get out of your adultery and come back to Moshe and the prophets, that you might receive the true betrothal of Yahusha HaMashiach, the actual Messiah, not the white Roman dude that carries a Christmas tree in his hand by the name of Isu, or in today, his name is Jesus. Get away from your whoredoms. Then said he unto the Talmudim, It is impossible, but that offenses will come. but woe unto him through whom they come. It were better for him that a milestone were hanged about his neck and he cast into the sea than that he should offend one of these little ones. What's he talking about? He's talking about those who cause offense. He's talking about the liars, the false prophets, the wolves in sheep's clothing that will come after him, that will bewitch the children of Yahusha again into following after the great whore and forsake their true bridegroom Yahusha and what he actually said, the red letters, and again follow the way of Balaam to their destruction. He's talking about them. They will come, but woe unto them. Take heed to yourselves if your brother. Yeah, what you got?
That's always been the little ones. That's always been preached as they are children. I've never heard a Christian church preach it as it is, what it really is.
From the beginning of the end, the children are always Yasharal. It's the offspring of Yasharal, the lost sheep, from beginning to end. Yahusha used the analogy of the actual children there to represent how he, Yahuwah, looks at us. He looks at us as his children, and we are to cry out, Abba, Father, to him as a child would. And as a child obeys his father, so do we obey our heavenly Father. He was trying to depict that great picture there from the beginning. Take heed to yourselves if your brother trespasses against you, rebuke him, and if you repent, forgive him. There's that mercy that I talked to you about in Hosea. We're supposed to have mercy upon each other, but we're also supposed to be righteous judges. That when our brother sins, we say, dude, get your finger out of the honeypot. Stop making those covenants with mammon and come back to the truth. Put down the poison of this world and come back. Because if he repents, we can forgive him. We have the power to forgive sins upon this earth. Yahusha gave it to us. If you're a person walking in the Torah and the testimony and belief in the Yahusha HaMashiach, you have the power to look someone in the eye when they repent and say, dear brother, your sins are forgiven. Because greater is it to forgive a man of his sin than it is to heal him of his illness. Yahusha also taught that. So I forgive any brother that will come forth this day, come to my door and say, oh my goodness, I realize in my error that I have sinned greatly against the Torah and the testimony of Yahusha, and all I need is my sins forgiven. Or even if you don't come to my door, even if you just go on your knees right now and cry out before Yahuwah, he promises to hear you, and he promises to forgive you. But I will tell you, according to James, when you come to your brethren and you confess your sin one to another, there's healing that follows. There's healing. There's healing that follows. Who doesn't need some healing? We all need some healing. Increase our trusting obedience, O Yahusha. Right? Luke 17:5, the apostles said, increase our faith. What is faith? Faith is trusting obedience. The apostles right here were saying, help us obey. How many of us have ever been there? Right? That war with the flesh and the spirit. Help us obey. In other words, increase our faith. Here's what he has to say to you. He says, if ye had trusting obedience, faith as a grain of mustard seed, you might say unto the sycamore tree, be plucked up by the root and be planted in the sea, and it should obey you. What's that say? If you will grab the fringe of my garment, if you will grab the very edge of my commandment and begin to walk in it, you will then be given enough trusting obedience to look at that sin, that sycamore tree that's rooted in your life, and say, addiction, get out. Lust, get out. Right? Profanity, get out. Perversion, get out. Because what happens when we begin to take hold of the fringe of his garment? Power goes from him to us through his Ruach HaKodesh as he gives his Ruach HaKodesh to those who obey him. And that begins to heal us and gives us the power to obey him. That's what he says. But we have to first be willing to grab the edge of his garment, that fringe of his commandment, and say, I will take hold of the single blue cord that leads to you, Yahusha, and I will walk in it. And most of the time, that first commandment that most people take hold of to get out of Babylon, the great whore, is the Sabbath. when they begin to walk in the seventh-day Sabbath, instead of that crap that Constantine made, their eyes begin to be open to the rest of the Torah, and they acknowledge the Torah and the testimony in their life as they begin to learn more and more and more. How do I know it? Because what did the apostles decree for the Goyim, the Gentiles? They said, stop eating the blood of the animals, stop eating things strangled, in other words, stop partaking in idol sacrifice and consuming the things of idol worship, right? The steeple where all the people is, right? Stop doing those things, because on the Sabbath, Moshe is taught in all the synagogues. So what's that mean? It means the Gentiles were beginning to keep the Sabbath and come to the synagogues on Sabbath to hear all of the Torah. But they had to first take hold of the beginning of understanding, the acknowledgement that the Torah and the testimony are true and Yahusha is king. Make sense? I hope so, because that was a lot of words I just said. So as you begin to walk in the Shabbat, as you begin to walk as a grain of mustard seed, plucking at the very edge of his commandments, I want you to know that the Ruach HaKodesh will begin to come into your life. And if you're struggling in addiction, I want you to look at your addiction right now and say, I believe into Yahusha HaMashiach. I take hold of the Torah and the testimony, and I bite into it with my teeth, with all my heart, that I might eat thereof and have life in my spirit. That Yahuwah would give life unto me. And so therefore, perversion get out, lust get out, covetousness get out, greed get out, addiction to drugs get out. Whatever your thing is, that thorn in your side, say get out in Yahusha's name, and it shall depart from you, because that's what he said. Unworthy servants, don't let this be you, dear friends. But which of you, having a servant plowing or feeding cattle, will say unto him by and by, when he is come from the field, go and sit down to meat? And will not rather say unto him, make ready wherewith I may sup, and gird yourself, and serve me, till I have eaten and drunken, and afterward you shall eat and drink? Does he thank that servant because he did the things that were commanded him? I think not. So likewise ye, when ye shall have done all these things, all these things, all these things which are commanded you, say, we are unprofitable servants. We have done that which was our duty to do. Dear friends, a true follower of Yahusha HaMashiach does not sit around bloating and gloating about what he's doing. He does not make all these Facebook posts. Look at my church. Look at my church. Look at my ministry. Look at me. Look at me. Look at my rap songs. Dude, I'm so sick of seeing these Christian rappers out here. They're like, me and Jesus getting down. I'm just like, what is this? Where do you see that this glorifies Yahuwah? Stop it. You're promoting yourself. Look at all the pictures and the images of you. It doesn't take long to look at one of these people that call themselves pastors and evangelists and ministers. Look at their Facebooks. What are their pictures of? Themselves. And I say this in love to each one of them, because their faith and hope and their trust is just misguided. Their zeal is just misguided. Oh my, if we could just turn them back to the truth, what a difference they could make in the earth. These pastors of hundreds, of tens, of thousands, of millions, they could make a great impact if they would just admit that they did it wrong and come back to the truth and proclaim it amongst the crowds that look to them and trust in them. They could make a huge difference. Because a true servant's just like, man, I've lost everything, but I've gained everything.
That's true.
What you got?
Hard.
Those servants would have to lose everything, wouldn't they? That's right. They would have to lose their titles. They would have to lose their fortunes. They would have to lose their castles that they built for themselves.
Probably lose their flock,
Maybe even lose their flock,
their income.
their jets, their cars, their fields. Who is a friend of the world is an enemy of Yahuwah. Enemy of Yahuwah. What did Yahusha say is the greatest threat to the kingdom? A hypocrite. A hypocrite. Lukewarm. It's a hypocrite. A fence rider. You're either all in or you're an enemy of Yahuwah. An enemy of the kingdom of Yasharal. Let's not do that. Well, I hope that this made a great impact on your life. I hope that this caused you to desire to bite in. To Fight into the truth. Because, dear friends, I believe that the end is coming very quickly. And I truly believe that you're either in the kingdom or you're not. That door is going to shut, and you're going to realize your error, and you're going to come beaten. And Yahusha's going to be like, who are you? Get out of here, you worker of lawlessness. I never knew you. It doesn't matter if you think you knew him. He never knew you because you never bit in to his flesh. You never bit into the truth. Never bit into him. So I'm calling all people that hear this video, that hear this voice, repent. Come back to the way of Yahusha. Come back to the way of the red letters and do them. Shabbat Shalom. How do you stop this thing?